V. Srinivas. I'm V. Srinivas, the Director General of the National Center for Good Governance, inviting our distinguished speakers, Sri Vineet Pandey, Secretary, Department of Posts, Government of India, and Srimati Usha Padi, the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, as also the international participants from 12 ITEC member countries of Myanmar, Maldives, Vietnam, Bhutan, Tunisia, Morocco, Cambodia, Bangladesh, Kenya, Azerbaijan, Trinidad, Tobago, and the Kingdom of Eswatini, which is formerly Swaziland, for this ITEC NCGG webinar on administrative innovations. This webinar is the second in the series of administrative innovations that are being conducted in collaboration between the Ministry of External Affairs and the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Government of India, and mandated to the Public Diplomacy Division of the Ministry of External Affairs, which is the ITEC division, and the National Center for Good Governance. Today, we present two extremely successful innovations of Government of India, which have benefited millions of Indian citizens. That is the India Post, which is the financial inclusion, which is a program wherein which massive financial inclusion and banking at the doorstep has been brought about. And second is the UDAN scheme, which has democratized India's airline policies. So we have two extremely distinguished speakers to speak on these initiatives. Let me welcome Sri Vineet Pandey, Secretary Posts, and before I request him to present his speech, I will request Professor Poonam Singh Ji to kindly introduce him to the audience.
Good afternoon. The lead speakers, first of all, Sri Vineet Pandey, Secretary, Department of Posts, Ministry of Communication, Government of India. Sri Vineet Pandey is an Indian Postal Service officer of 1986 batch. He is currently Secretary, Department of Posts, Ministry of Communication, Government of India, and Chairman, Postal.
We are not audible. तुम कर लो यार. We are not audible. Mr. Srinivasan, we are not able to. मैसेज डाल दिया
नीचे करना
Ma'am, we are not able to hear.
There is some technical issue we are checking, sir. Just give us a couple of minutes.
request Secretary Post, Shri Vinit Pandey to kindly address the webinar.
First of all, a warm greeting from Department of Posts, and thank you for this opportunity of reaching out to this august audience. To begin with, if I can begin, the first slide itself shows this administrative initiative is the innovation in inclusion as to reaching out and written bank means post office at doorstep. Now, before I just take you through two very small clippings of the video, I would like to, the bottom part, if you see the map of our country, the first and foremost point is that the network, one of the largest postal network in the world, in terms of accessibility, the first picture shows the 800 head post offices what we have and the dots thereof. Now, in turn, these 800 post offices control the sub post offices, what we call in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is in the middle picture. So the number of dots have increased, and in turn, these sub post offices cater to the rural post offices, which we call village post offices or branch post offices. That was the main area of focus of our presentation and discussion as to how this broad-based structure of a very traditional department of government of India, and through innovation and some recent initiatives, has been able to make a remarkable difference in terms of financial inclusion to the masses. Just two clippings. The first one broadly says what it was like in a rural setup, what were the problems. And the second, our Honorable Prime Minister, while launching the India Post Payment Bank initiative, what he addressed to the nation, which I'll translate subsequently. So first clipping.
Places like RLE, we don't have bank nearby, and people suffer a lot for their bank transactions.
நாங்கள் பேங்க்கு பென்ஷன் போகணும்னா காலையில் 7 மணிக்கு போகல, 7 மணிக்கு போனால் நாங்கள் போய் க்யூவில் நிற்கணும். எங்களுக்கு எழுத ஃபார்மில் எனக்கு தெரியாது. ஃபார்ம் எழுதி கொடுத்துட்டு யாராவது தருவாங்க, யாராவது கேட்டு ஃபார்ம் எழுதி கொடுத்துருவோம். அப்போ அங்கே போய் பார்த்தா நீங்கள் நாளைக்கு நாளைக்கு போனால் நீங்கள் கரெக்டு இன்னும் கரெக்டாக 5 மாதத்துக்கு நாளைக்கு ஆரம்பித்தேன். முடிவா இல்லை தெரியுமா? அது இல்லை.
This is the second one.
India Post Payment Bank के माध्यम से देश के हर गरीब यानी एक भारतीय के दरवाजे पर बैंक और बैंकिंग सुविधा पहुंचाने का जो हमारा संकल्प है, एक प्रकार से आज वो मान इस प्रारंभ से ये पेमेंट बैंक बनने से एक साथ देश से गांव तक बैंकों का जाल बिखेरा, जनता के लोगों का लाभ मिलेगा और सामान्य मानवी कवरेज का पैसा भी अब आधार के द्वारा उसके खाते में जा रहा है.
So it was the trust imposed by Honorable Prime Minister when this initiative of India Post Payment Bank was launched. Primarily, what he is mentioning is that this wide network with this initiative will be able to reach at the doorstep of the masses. Now, here are some comparative figures. Just quickly, I'll take you through why this initiative was taken. Was there were challenges in banking sector as to how to have a full-fledged financial inclusion initiatives. So the first was the accessibility challenge. Now, broadly, as per the studies, the average coverage area of bank branches were around 22 square meter, ATMs 15 square kilometer, and in fact, there were 7 villages attached to per branch in general. This was the normal status. Now, with one go, what has happened is, with this initiative, this distance has been reduced to 0 in terms of the reachability, that our representatives in the rural areas, the postmasters, what we call them as village postmasters, and their assistants, through their ATM micro device are able to reach at the doorsteps, which you can see on the right side in the picture. So the coverage now is 3 villages per branch. Second was high cost of accessing financial services. You may appreciate that reaching out the nearest bank and the traveling cost and time cost in terms of almost 150 to 200 rupees per transaction was the challenge, which has now, with free delivery of banking services at doorstep, with more than 200,000 doorstep banking service providers, in one shot we have been able to reach out right at the home. Now, most important was, given the socio-cultural challenges in terms of gender disparity, the general study was that 77% of women have access to formal financial services, but only 35% were active. And we take pride to share with this audience that the journey which we have covered so far, which I'll be detailing in my subsequent slides, in case of our accounts, the 95% of women accounts, the second account in the India Post Payment Bank, which was launched, is women's. 98% of women's accounts are opened at the doorstep, and 68% of incoming direct benefit transfer through various social schemes of the government are coming directly to their account. The detailings will kind of explain the point. This one core point, if I need to explain here, is that the gap of the digital network is there, but then has to be a human touch where the post office chips in. Is the major remarkable achievement what we have kind of visualized in the last 2-3 years. So other was the point I was talking about in terms of the barriers to entry was the addressing. Means even if you have a digital network, which we have a robust base on which this India Post Payment Bank has come up with state-of-the-art, best industry practices technology. But all said and done, there has to be a human element there at what we call here is last mile, but the first mile for the customer, in the sense that he need not even step out of his or her home. So with low smartphone penetration, particularly in the rural areas, in our case, 80% transactions are happening on assisted mode. Now, similarly, what I was mentioning, the digital divide has been gapped by removing the barrier through assisted banking. 90% of our customers are transacting on assisted mode. In fact, if you see the right side of the picture, the literacy camps were held in villages across the country. Majority participation was coming from women folk, and they were made to understand. So the point I am making is that the traditional trust and faith in the postal system and the representatives from the post office, coupled with the digital network which has been created in the country in the recent past, both of them have been able to help us acquire at least 90% of the customers in the rural area. Now, there is always a sense of hesitation to begin with while transacting on a device. That hesitation has been removed in the sense that the postmaster or the village postmaster or our postman is available all throughout to them, even in an informal manner. So that element of trust perhaps gets translated into so many number of accounts being opened by particularly the women segment in the rural areas. Now, innovations addressing barriers in banking was this convenience of banking. In schools, in our village panchayats, we held literacy camps. We make them understand that we are with you and you are just kind of one step away for any kind of transaction help in terms of financial transaction is concerned. Now, in case of even with the literacy challenges that we have, all kinds of primary education, then of course the digital understanding, and of course the financial understanding as to what are the schemes, how an account is operated, what kind of assistance is coming from various schemes of the government of India. So these innovations and implementation in a quick time, like introduction of QR card or assisted universal payment mechanism, all these things have helped us that in the local language, even the postman or the village postman across the states can explain, and all these things are automated and call center based in terms of the language is concerned. Access to technology has been facilitated by reaching out to them through the same network who have been trained and guided in a very short time, so that this kind of facility is available 24 by 7. When I say 24 by 7 means, normally in all the cases, our branch postmaster or the village postmaster resides in the same area. His assistant also resides in the same area. So even beyond office hours or duty hours, if there is a need of any cash transaction or any help, our people are there to help and support. That affinity and that connect straight away has really resulted in some significant results ever since this initiative had been undertaken. So a concept of hassle-free banking, in the sense, not paperwork is not involved. The QR code based smart cards are there. They need not remember even their account numbers, and the whole opening process itself on an average takes not more than 3 minutes. So no physical documentation, because retention was a problem, the recall was a problem. All this is all biometrically authenticated, and the visibility there, accessibility in terms of making them understand and using the local language there, so that confidence has kind of brought in a major reform insofar as our target audience is concerned, what I am presenting in today's presentation to you. Now, if I summarize this entire thing in this last 2-3 years, so on a broad base of our hundreds of years of our what the confidence which the people had in the postal network, the emotional connect that they had, matched with digital outreach and door-to-door program, we have been able to get 46.4 million customers. This I am talking apart from a broad base of almost 450 million customers, which otherwise we had through our normal post office savings bank setup. Within a quick time, 291.4 million transactions have happened, worth Indian rupees 947 billion. Cash at the doorsteps is around 59 million transactions with a volume of 157.25 billion. Mobile app downloads have been 10 million plus. DBT disbursement transaction and 37.8. What I mean by DBT is the direct benefit transfer, which straight away goes to the beneficiary's account. So enabling the authentication through Aadhaar, the ID system, the unique ID system which we have, it is purely digital, purely based on a match of thumbprint and IT, has been able to ensure that these benefits, whatever are reaching out to the rural masses, goes directly into their account, and their operations thereof are also controlled thereafter. Even the bill payment transaction has happened through this, which is I am talking about tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is in the range of 22.2 million in terms of assisted mode, and the volume is around 6 billion Indian rupees. Now, if I take you through the journey which we have covered, starting from the remarkable day, perhaps unprecedented in the history in terms of such a huge organization in one day. If you see the bottom part, the very first day when this initiative was launched in terms of India Post Payment Bank, where our Honorable Prime Minister had addressed, and the short clipping you have just seen, it was a single day initiative, unprecedented in banking history in India, that straight away 650 main branches were brought on board with around 3,250 access points, with the help of 10,000 doorstep banking agents, in the sense that our people who had been trained, sensitized, geared up for this particular occasion. So in one shot, we almost reached every district, means which as in a revenue model across the country in one shot with the main branch. And that happened somewhere in September 18 when it was launched by Honorable Prime Minister. Other happenings and development is on this robust model and full commitment of the entire fleet of the the postal family from bottom village. We have 300,000 certified banking service providers by March 19. 10 million plus man hours of training was conducted with, and also reaching out to around 5 million customers in a very short span up to March 19. And then the journey goes on that as per our Reserve Bank of India Act, we were the first payment bank which got included in the second schedule of the Act as in June 19. And first and only, which was the first and the only payment bank. Now, by September, this what I mentioned earlier, the Aadhaar enabled payment system was launched, which is the single largest interoperable platform for any bank customer. And by August 21, as late as early as the last month, if I can take the figures, so what I mentioned earlier, that we have 46.4 million purely India Post Payment Bank customers, and with around 26.65 billion customer deposit and 157.24 billion Aadhaar enabled transaction value. So this is a snapshot of the journey which has happened from September 2018 to August 2021. Within 3 years, this initiative has established itself. So this will be spearheading into technology, riding on the large base of the entire post system, which has other functions, and how it has kind of galvanized and made a revolutionary impact across, not only through this initiative, but across the entire postal network, that I'll come in the subsequent slides. Now, to summarize the scale of implementation, what we have discussed is 136,000 banking access points. Majority, you can see here, is 90% in the rural areas, is 2.5 times increase in the rural banking infrastructure in this short time. In terms of digital financial literacy program, 10 million man hours, as I mentioned, and 300,000 employees trained. And when I say trained, means both in terms of their digital skills to handle those devices and connectivity and uploading the data, all information on time, record management, supervision, and all these things are built into the system. This has reduced the cost of this direct benefit transfer, which is reaching out to the main beneficiaries, so that they need not travel long distances, need not leave their agricultural or any other job which they are doing, and then the postmaster or the village postman is available at their call for their help. Now, one most remarkable achievement I would like to share with this audience here, that during the COVID-19, which is a pandemic, I mean, across the world, this is one of the major challenges to cope with. And during the lockdown, which was enforced because of obvious reasons, even in that period, we were able to almost manage around 50 billion rupees through Doorstep, including at hotspots and migrant camps, including in the villages and remote corners, in wherever people were stuck for whatever reasons. This was one handy, what shall I say, that the effort which were made in first 2 years was very handy to reach out to them as in this case, what had happened was not only from their post office accounts, but even from other accounts also, they were able to get quick money with foolproof authentication, so that their livelihood could be sustained. So this is one major kind of outcome I would like to share and the kind of flag on this forum. So there are three broad areas where it has impacted in terms of when we say administrative initiative. So this initiative, in terms of figures and in terms of quantum of transactions, that is one part. But broadly, what it has done is that in terms of infrastructure, the post office network has been enabled as the largest banking service provider in the country, and all facilities which is available for a normal urban setup, like through ATMs, smartphones and biometric devices, as I mentioned, matched with our Aadhaar identity system, has on a largest WAN. This is now a built-in gain which has happened over last few years. Capacity building, I already mentioned that so many employees are trained. They are now kind of the basics of a banking environment they are aware of. to help and assist our ultimate customers. The structured digital financial education to almost 450,000 people has been kind of delivered through various what we call as village level community gatherings and schools in our whatever forum was available. I mean, people were very happy to join for any kind of information exchange, understanding, and availing these services. So this entire rural ecosystem, in the sense, has been revitalized because this money, the which has reached out to them in terms of any relief measures or any other social benefit which has been transferred to them and reaching out to them in their hand, has definitely generated other positive economic impact around in the cluster of village or in the village itself. This is we are seeing happening in such a short time. So going forward, if Department of Post, which is under Ministry of Communications, and riding on that is the India Post Payment Bank. So traditionally, through our network, we are there in terms of our financial services, the conventional post office savings schemes on the right top. If you can see, the electronic money order system was introduced. There are so many other schemes such as Atal Pension Yojana or National Pension Scheme, international money transfer. This was a set or bouquet of financial services which was existing in the traditional postal setup. Now, bottom is the other postal services like lifeline of physical delivery. In any case, it is that, I mean, in this country, you just tell an address, we'll reach out to that, and the delivery takes place at the doorsteps. And especially in the remote areas, the hilly areas, all these things are connected traditionally. Now, what has happened is now merging it with the best practices which has happened in case of this initiative of India Post Payment Bank, with they having their current account and other account and Aadhaar enabled payment system and all kinds of money remittance facilities, insurance facilities, even in some cases the digital life certificates. I mean, people need not go out and kind of produce the identity, and all these things are available online. Now, this has spearheaded and kind of the impact has trickled down to the entire system, the entire postal system, resulting, if you go on the left side, insofar as the government services are concerned, we are ready with, if even in that electoral photo I card, whether it is that kind of a initiative which has to be reached out to the masses, or whether it is updation of their Aadhaar ID, the ID of all the individuals, digital, you can say, their updation or new additions, any kind of examination, survey, all these facilities are now capable. All government-oriented initiatives are now possible to ride on this network which has been created. Same goes to the government to customer services, like even the passports have been introduced through post offices. Then we also have introduced the concept of common service centers. That means a series of services for which, whether given by the state government or by the central government, for which people had to travel to the district headquarters or to the urban centers, are now available at their doorstep through digital means based on their Aadhaar identification. Same goes for any kind of insurance services. The department itself has its own insurance product known as Postal Life Insurance. So the major impact what has happened is that the traditional customer base, with 420,000 our own staff support system, the entire network, 156,000 post offices, and the trust from local people, all integrated, galvanized through this initiative of India Post Payment Bank's topping and riding on this base. So we are covering 480 million customers now in formal banking ecosystem, where 10% have all been added in the recent past, in the last 2 years. So that is one significant thing which I thought I'll share with this audience here. And going forward, this is what we want to build up further on this. The India Post Payment Bank, that in terms of transactions, in terms of what it's looking up, particularly in the last year, despite a very challenging situation prevailing across the country, which is, I'm sure, other postal administrations or other administrations would also be facing. And following are some of the snippets or the press coverage at the relevant time. And with that, I'll end my presentation, or if there any interjection, interaction or any questions, we are open to that.
Let me thank Sri Vineet Pandeji, the Secretary, Department of Posts, for bringing out a truly transformational change in terms of financial inclusion. Radical reforms with transformational change, as he has said, have benefited 46 million Indians, and it has actually made banking without banks a reality. And women's empowerment in a scale, unprecedented scale, has been witnessed. May I congratulate you for this massive effort, sir. I'll request you to kindly stay in the web room. We have a second presentation, and after that, we will open the floor for a question-answer session for about 30 minutes. May I now invite our second speaker, Srimati Usha Padi, a distinguished senior civil servant who is currently serving in the Ministry of Civil Aviation. And before I offer her the floor, I'll request Professor Poonam Singh to kindly introduce our distinguished speaker.
Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon. Srimati Usha Padi is an IAS officer of 1996 batch, Odisha cadre. She is currently Joint Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. She has an experience of working as a state and center since last 25 years in various capacities. Is skilled in administration, policy formulation, public finance management, public-private partnership, and negotiating in bilateral, multilateral projects. She actively held the consultations with industry partners to finalize few important components of comprehensive national civil aviation policy in 2016. She has significant experience in policy making to strategically lead, negotiate, and network with country governments, industry stakeholders at both national and international levels. She has extensive knowledge about physical and social infrastructure gained from working in the field as well as policy making level in sectors like technical cooperation, security, development, education, livelihoods, water resources, etc. She is the first women chairman and managing director of Pawan Hans Limited, a mini Navratna company, and first women director general of Bureau of Civil Aviation Security. She holds a master's degree in public administration from University of Birmingham, United Kingdom, and also pursuing PhD at Xavier University, Bhubaneswar, Odisha. Thank you so much. May I now invite Madam to speak on UDAN. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome. Am I audible?
May we invite Srimati Usha Padi to kindly address the webinar? No problem.
For the technical glitch, am I audible now?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Please continue. Please continue.
Presentation visible?
Yes, please continue. Kindly continue. The presentation is visible.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am thankful to the generous introduction. Thanks to NCGG, DRPAG, and MEA for giving this opportunity. And thanks to Srinivas sir for always remembering us whenever such meetings are there. I'm really honored to be here with all the friends from across the globe. It's a good interaction. I hope we will also learn from you all. Friends, the scheme which I am talking about is named as UDAN. The name itself shows the flying. It means the flying for the ordinary citizen of the country. This may be seen as the opportunity for bringing that disparities or the bringing that divide between the people who are having the aspiration but not too much of resources to fly. The vision of Honorable Prime Minister when he gave the mandate for this ministry was to ensure that the aviation, which is considered as a elite mode of transportation, normally we all thought at some point of time, to make it affordable and to make it affordable for those people who are in the hinterland of the country, who have not been able to consume the fruit of development, especially the success story of aviation, which was happening in the country. So the mandate was to make sure that the services of the air transportation is accessible and also affordable. And let me also mention about the way we all thought at some point of time, as I said, that in a normal way, we also thought that the air transportation comes in a livelihood matrix somewhere in very far. I mean, like people have everything, and then as a luxury, we can think of air transportation. But this was the idea to make the air transportation as a efficient mode of transportation or a best logistic option available in some of the region. So keeping this mandate, we wanted to make this as a reality, the vision of the nation. So we had challenges. If you see the map, which is on the left side, where we pointed or identified some of the areas which are hitherto unserved, where they had never got the air transport connectivity. But there were too many connectivity or the infrastructure available in some of the metros. So if we see top 6 airports of the country, I mean, since 2015 onwards, the civil aviation has been in the double-digit growth in the country. So, but most of these are skewed and were happening in the major airports. So if we take 18 topmost airports, we had 86% of air traffic there. Then if we want to move some of the benefits to the hinterland, then we had to create an infrastructure because aviation cannot happen with the substantial infrastructural support. If we bring the infrastructure also in the regional areas, then whether the aircraft would be able to move there, and if they are able to move, then whether it will be able to give the affordable services. And if everything is there, but still this is a very highly regulated sector, whether we'll be able to put a proper ecosystem where the market will function and the regulatory authorities would be able to change their gear to address these issues and provide facilitation for all the operations. And this is one slide where I would like to spend some time. Keeping all those challenges, we have tried to put the solutions, which are completely sector driven and based on the infrastructure in stakeholders' inputs. We talked of affordability. How can we do the affordability? We anchored one point based on the various analysis, based on the available information and stakeholders' contribution, where we said that, okay, let us say around 500 kilometers air travel. If normally in hinterland person wants to go from that regional airport to the so-called regional hub, from where they can take the flights to major cities, or it is like a hub and spoke. So there has to be a lot of a spoke which has to be done. So it would be like, let us say 500 kilometers, then per hour, if we can keep around 2,500 Indian rupees, which would be, I mean, like if you have around $50, it is like, we would be having less than $50, of course. It would be having an affordability for the common people. So this was the anchor. Then we built this scheme around that. It is why you can ask me why this much, because it is comparable to second class AC railways in India when they travel around 500 kilometers. Keeping that, we said that, okay, this is the cap which we'll put. If we put this cap, it will be affordable. But whether this affordability will be bring market viability, no. So we had the second principle brought in, which is a differential. We said that, okay, there can be some seats which are at this rate, but the other seats have to cross subsidize this. So we brought the differential fares, either 50% of the aircraft or maximum 40 seats, which would be given as a cap, where the fare caps would be there, where people first come, first served basis, they would be able to get it. Then we came to one step ahead. Okay, when we do this, even if when we do this, there may be some gap, because airlines in unventured market, if they want to go, they may be having high risk. To bring down that risk, whether we can have some incentives to those. Then if we want to have incentives, where are the resources? So again, the resources were also brought in from the sector. We said, again, the cross-subsidized model can also be utilized here. As I said, we had traffic happening between the metros. We said, maybe we can collect some levy from this profitable route to the non-profitable routes. I don't say non-profitable routes, but to kickstart the regional routes, which can take the market strength gradually when they move ahead, at least to develop the regional market. We charge that levy, and in Indian rupees, it is around 5,000 per departure in the major routes, what we call trunk routes. So for that, we have an institutional mechanism of collecting and dispersing wherever it is done. Do we have unlimited resources? No. Then we have to also optimally utilize the resources. How do we optimally utilize those resources? Then we should also have a mechanism which is market-oriented mechanism. So we had left the stakeholders to go by market viability. So we had the bidding, where we have two rounds of bidding, or two level of bidding, where the counter biddings also would be there. So we market determined prices we have to finalize. And also on those routes which are market will decide what would be the networks, and because it's the aviation networks are very complicated, and they are depending on various other factors. We left it to the market or the airline operators. You bid. What we did, we identified these are our airports, hinterland airports. These are our airstrips, or these are our areas or region which are priority to us. So please bid there. We try to nudge by making some policy incentives. If you see, we have this, when we mobilize the resources, it is not only monetary, it is also non-monetary. What are non-monetary? Maybe we can have a policies where we say that, okay, if you operate in this area, you will get these benefits. If you operate in this area, you will get waiver of the landing parking, or some of the navigational charges, which are foregone for various other people, like airport operator or the state government. Some tax benefits would be given. But these are all notional foregone revenues. Why? Because anyway, the airline are not operating as on today, so there is no revenue. So if you give some incentive and make them happen, the footfall itself of the passengers will they would take the losses what is notional. So in this way, we convinced, and we brought the airlines, or nudged the airline operator to operate to these areas. And the mainstreaming of regional development was one of our major agenda. So we tried to tweak the scheme whenever it is needed to make sure that the people go to remote and regional areas. So that was one slide. I wanted to have more time on that. Then these are the other institutional mechanism. When we talk of good governance, there are various elements of good governance. This is one where the robust institutional mechanism, which is very much required to sustain the initiative which we have taken. So we have a institutional mechanism for policy decision, course correction at a different level, and also with the implementers, or the people who are actually on the field and doing it. They are able to get the institutional support, and it will happen continuously without any individual being there or not there. Then technology has the leverage, and that has been utilized, and most of the interface which happens between various stakeholders is on whether it is the bidding process, whether it is the disbursement of the VGF, whether it is collection of levy. Everything happens on the electronic platform, where we have the transparency and the dynamic process are put in place. We have a SOP, or the standard operating procedures, so that the people who are participating in the scheme When I say that this sector oriented, that it has been sector found solution, I can explain it to you. The sector, it is like a sector by the sector, for the sector, to the sector. The sector has been a virtuous cycle for us, where we are collecting the levy from the profitable route, using it in the regional route. It will give feeder passengers to the metro routes. Metro traffic again will increase, create more levy, and again levy go to the regional, and again it will give the benefit to the metro routes. So this is a virtuous cycle, which we hope, like a circular economy. So this will also be able to give that sustainability to the entire initiative or entire activity which are taken under this scheme. It is just a triggering in the regional, triggering the local market, but it may have a multiple effect or the spin-off benefits on the economy. We have a concurrent evaluation going on. We have brought the Indian School of Business on board, where they would be working with us and trying to help us in evaluate what worked and what not worked. I can say we have gone, last 4 years, we have gone for bidding in 6 rounds. The taste of pudding is in eating. We don't, every round has been a different structure, where we kept on tweaking the scheme, and based on the learning we have incorporated, and we don't have any legal case pending at any level, because it is always with the involvement of the stakeholders, and it has been a transparent process. Some of the achievement of this scheme, where we have got a lot of visibility, because this is first time people realize that even their small town can have a appropriate type of aircraft coming to them. There have been very heartening and human stories, which somebody for the commerce, somebody maybe for tourism, somebody maybe for the education, somebody maybe for the health reason, they are able to travel very fast to the metros, and they are able to get those benefits which were only limited to some pocket of the country. So far we have developed around 60 regional airports where the operations are happening, and the aircraft are mostly going there. And in some of the region, remote or hilly areas, heliports, and in 2 water bodies, we have the water drones also developed. Of course, we have learned from Maldives, the friends from Maldives, if they are there, we have, they have a very good system from where we have also learned, and we have tried to replicate in our country. We have federal system. You may be knowing that the states are quite powerful. Most of the issues are dealt by them, and the success of the scheme shows that the states themselves have come over and they have had an MOU. It's because it's market driven. We are not giving any door to anybody, but still they came and they are invested their stake to make this scheme successful, so that they will also get the connectivity, and the policies are tweaked in such a way that there is a healthy competition among the states who would get more connectivity. So this is where we have tried to bring that paradigm shift in thinking, that air connectivity is not something for the elite, but it is for the common people. We have the 369 routes, having the 60 airports. We have already done 60 international routes also, because the formula is same. The template is same, where we have, it starts in some of the hitherto unserved areas. If there are any gap, through monetary and non-monetary initiative, we'll try to intervene. So the template is there. So whether I put it in the regional connectivity or whether it is I put it in the international connectivity, so it can happen. So some of the areas, especially northeast region of India, they wanted, we have the look east policy, because their cultural heritage, historical connectivity was, connection was there with the southeastern countries. So we are trying to link those and provide those benefit of the international travel in a quickest mode of transportation to northeast region. We have, our policy has nudged some of the airlines to change their business model. We have one of the dominant airline which had only one type of fleet, which was for the metros. They changed their model and they got 100+ regional aircraft to be part of the scheme. So they thought it's a win-win. where they will also get the people from for the metro when they operate the regional aircraft. So this are the regional routes, which has been very heartening to see. We have around 77.2 million passengers already utilize this facility, and they have been flying. We have very less penetration as far as the aviation is concerned. So we have a huge scope if 40 million people who are there in the country, I mean, 400 million, in fact, the middle class who have whose affluence is gradually increasing, and they would be interested to travel for various reasons. So we have a huge potential where the sky is the limit. And when I showed in the beginning slide where the skewed development was there, mostly metro, now we are able to pull around 5% more incremental growth for the air traffic in the non-metro airports. We have most of the airlines participating, around 11 regional airlines participating in this. We have awarded 780 routes because I wanted to add one more factor here. When we thought that these are the market-driven mechanisms are there, then we were able to convince the finance ministry of the country who have other competing demands. But the presentation of the scheme was in such a way that the infrastructure, if it happens in the regional area, the divide between urban and rural would decrease. So based on that, considering that it has a public good, the infrastructure fund has been sanctioned to us. And this infrastructure would be developed only on demand base. That means if the airline wants to operate to some airport, they will invest so that the investment will not go infructuous. So in that way, we went ahead with the awarding of the routes. We have already awarded 780 routes, and we are developing more airports, which will be able to connect these 780 or enabling infrastructure for operationalization of 780 routes. And most of the routes we have, I mean, the airline announced the operation, and most of the seats are full. The passenger load is very high. This itself will dispel our earlier belief that the rural or the regional area people don't travel, or the market is not mature enough to take this. No, it is not case. Most of the around 80% of the routes have complete demand, and how the airlines put their business model, the demand and the yield would make this route sustainable. That is, we have seen in some of the routes, there have been even after withdrawal. This is a 3-year scheme. There is a sunset clause. We don't perennially give all the benefits. After 3, it is expected within 3 years, they will have the market sustainability, and they will be operating it without any support from external things, so that our resources can be moved to other area which has not been covered yet. The COVID has been a dampener, but even during the COVID, the regional routes have been very, very useful, because most of these people who go to work to other places were able to come back to their places and again return back to their workplaces using this connectivity, which are affordable as of now. This is for future. With way forward, we are developing 100 more airports. We are having other heliports in some of the region where the fixed wing operations, that is the operation where the long runway is not possible. There we are operating helicopters. We have more people to, I mean, facilitate more people to travel. Then we have to now 700 odd routes, but it has to go to 1,000 routes. And we want every state to be connected and the hinterland of every state to be connected. These are some of the changes which we think that UDAN had on the overall aviation landscape. Whether it is tourism, I have spoken, and if you have the understanding of geography of India, it is a countries within the country. So we have different states which are very large, and people, because of various beliefs, they keep on traveling. It is for the tourism, religious purpose, whether it is for the commerce, and also historically they have some relations with some part of the country, so they need to go there. And it is also about providing the what we call Atmanirbhar Bharat, where we want that self-reliant country, where we can utilize our local resources, and we can also bring the development and give a fillip to the local economy. So this has been happening because any connectivity, air connectivity will raise the aspiration, and it is creating a lot of rippling effect in all those areas. And it is also seen, I mean, the air connectivity is also seen as one of the major ingredient to be seen as a development in that area. So I leave it with the organizers, so anybody can go through. If they want more information, we can share it. And this helicopter services, you can see the small infrastructure we are creating, not too big, but we will be able to make it as a functional airport or heliports. And recently we had kickstart the water aerodrome operations, where Honorable Prime Minister himself was there. And I just wanted to add one more point, because we have the template which is available. During the COVID, it came as very handy for us to use this hub and spoke model to make sure that all these medical cargo, which are less in weight but huge voluminous cargo, and all these medical required chemicals, reagents and testing materials, everything was taken when all other modes were shut down. And we had a to control the pandemic in such a large heterogeneous country, we wanted the complete shutdown, which was rigorously imposed for a few days. So during that period, it was the only mode of transportation which made sure that there was no shortage of any medicine or any medical equipment or any medical related materials. So, and also we have a premier institution called ICMR, which is about the research and the medical testing and other things. They had all their labs set during this period because they had very few. This type of situation was not foreseen, but during our period around, instead of just two number or whatever they had 20, 30 small labs, but they expanded it to more than 300 labs all over the country for research and the testing of COVID and address or fight this COVID pandemic. And we have also this scheme also has led to this agro business model, where the perishable agro commodity can be brought from hinterland or interior areas, remote areas to the metros. The same system which we have been using, which will also be extended to cargo, and we call it Krishi UDAN, that is basically agriculture UDAN. So these are things which we did it during the COVID period. We called it Lifeline UDAN, and Honorable Prime Minister was generous enough to mention it when he described it as a real lifeline in his monthly talk when he addressed to the nation. These are few multiplier effect which had given, it is, as I said, it is not only about the connectivity, it is about the aspiration. There have been a lot of first time flyers who think that this connectivity will be a game changer for their region. And social cohesion, as it's everybody's development, everybody has the right to have the best of facilities what metros are getting. So same thing is happening in the regional areas. For economic development, of course, ICAO study says that any connectivity, air connectivity, has a multiplier of 3.25 in economy and 6.1 in employment. That means if I spend 1 rupee, then I have the multiplier effect of around 3.25 rupees within the economy. And if I create one direct job, it will have more than 6 indirect jobs. We now talk of not only ease of doing business, but ease of living. So for that ease of living, if somebody can travel somewhere very quickly and the quality of travel is better, it's improve or enhance the quality of life. So these are a few of our leaders who have been mentioning this, even in the parliament when we have the joint session. Government achievements are told, and in subsequent, in continuously last 3-4 years, Honorable President has been mentioning about this scheme for the growth contribution in nation building. And our Honorable Minister Finance has already said that this is where we try to bring the bring down the divide between urban and rural. So this is not only about logistics, but it is about the development of the country. So here I stop. This is one of our airport, which is in a very remote area in Pakyong, in Sikkim, if you have heard that state name, in Himalayas. So this is what has created a huge impact in the local area. I'll stop here, and thanks for your patient hearing, and I will be available for any of your questions and answers. Thank you. And your inputs.
Thank you,
also.
Ushaji. That was a very exciting presentation to see an aircraft land in some of the highest airports of India, and also that you've ensured the common man has access to civil aviation and can get into an aircraft across the most remotest part of the country. We have 12 countries participating in today's discussion, and I'll invite the delegations alphabetically, and we can take up if there are any question answers. Our distinguished speakers are available to reply. May I now invite the delegation from Bangladesh? Do you have any questions, please? The delegation from Bangladesh. No. The delegation from Myanmar. The delegation from Myanmar.
Oh.
Would any of the members from the delegation of Myanmar have any questions?
Question yet? It's okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Kindly introduce yourself and raise your question.
Yes, my name is Tata Josulin from Myanmar.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. We have no questions. Thank you.
No questions from Myanmar?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. May I invite the delegation from Maldives? Do you have any questions? The delegation from Maldives? The delegation from Tunisia? We have a very large delegation of 35 members from Tunisia. Would the delegation of Tunisia like to seek any clarifications? The delegation from Bhutan? The delegation from Vietnam? The delegation from Morocco? No. Would any other delegate like to raise any questions? We have Kenya, Azerbaijan, Trinidad, Tobago, Cambodia. No. Would any member from the Indian delegation like to flag any questions? We have several distinguished faculties from many central universities.
Yeah, Mr. Srinivas, am I audible? This is Srinivas Pathi from Mizoram University. Am I audible?
Oh, hello, Mr. Pati. Please, good that you're there. We cannot see you though. We can't see you. Can you switch?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's possible.
Yes,
Yeah,
please flag your question.
Yeah, actually I have posted in Q&A, one for Mr. Bineet and one for Madam Usha. It is in the Q&A, so they can take up the question. Just one simple question, and my thanks for the beautiful presentation. This is the only thing I want to tell you. And also thank you, NCGG team. Thank you very much.
Can I request Secretary Post to kindly take up the question? Are you in the web room? Or somebody can please read the question that is posed by Professor Srinivas Pati. He is speaking from behalf of Mizoram University. Sir. You have the question with you? Professor Pati, can you flag your question? I don't have the Q&A box with me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Professor Pati, can you please flag your question for Secretary Post?
Sure. The point is, Madam Usha, the question is, as a person living in Northeast for 2 decades, this UDAN scheme comes very handy for all 8 states. There have been efforts, but not many successful efforts. So what can be done under UDAN to have interlinkages among all the 8 states where they need it very much now? This is my only query, and thank you for the presentation. Madam Musa, this is the only question from my side.
Raji, would you like to respond?
Tulsa here. I am responding to Professor Srinivas here. He mentioned about northeastern region. We know that the northeastern region has a lot of connectivity issue or communication issues. If we see the recent, I mean, like the last few days, we have been working with the Northeastern Council, donor, and with the Tourism Ministry, and within the UDAN, we have the various routes. If I remember, I don't have the exact number, but around 40 routes we have already operationalized. Lot of flights which are happening in intra Northeast, whether it is from Shillong to recently it went to Imphal. The various other intra when Northeast capitals. So around 40 routes which we have, whatever flights they see, whether it is Shillong. Shillong started with various other places by Indigo. So all these routes are under UDAN actually. We have awarded those routes and we are supporting the airlines for that. Otherwise, normally they don't come there on their own because many times it is a less number of traffic which they get. As I said, there is a scope for improvement always. We have lot many routes which need to be operationalized, and it was it took some. I mean, it went slow. That pace was reduced because of the COVID. All airlines were in a very difficult situation, and now we hope that gradually all other awarded routes which have not started the operations, they will start, and intra northeastern connectivity will happen. And there were some routes which we stopped because of the COVID. We did not go ahead with the international connectivity. So from Guwahati, some of the places like Dhaka, Kuala Lumpur, and Rangoon, these international connectivities are happening soon. And from Manipur, it is the Mandalay which they had requested, which will also be bid very shortly. So our efforts would be on. And for all the helicopter routes, the Northeast is our priority area. Whoever operates in Northeast under this scheme, there is a provision that they will get additional VGF. So we hope that this will nudge the airlines to operate in Northeast more and more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Thank you, Professor Pati. Would Secretary Post like to say any concluding remarks, please, with regard to possible collaborations with our neighboring countries? Can I invite Secretary Post for concluding comments, please?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah. So what I was mentioning that I have had the occasion of being with at least two of the participant countries in the capacity as a postal interaction, and
It's again affected, I think.
Yes, I can't hear him. Could you please check the mic again, sir?
yeah,
yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I was mentioning that in any of these participating countries, but majority the basic postal structure would be common. What the difference what has happened is how to fill the gap between the digital reach and the personal touch and the personal connect with the beneficiaries. So say for in couple of things like say for example there has been some exchange programs also with the postal administrations of these participating countries as far as India is concerned, and we have had some programs in the past also through our national academy here near Delhi, and we have been exchanging some kind of information system and some training orientation also as to how in general coming from the UPU, that is Universal Postal Union Guidelines. Under the aegis of that, the mandate which is available to the Asia Pacific countries and the neighboring countries, we have those forums available. So continuous information exchange and whatever we has been our learning, and I'm sure similar initiatives must have been taken in the respective postal administrations of these participant countries also. So what has been their significant findings and the initiatives which they have taken, that will go a long way, at least in this part, as to how a traditional setup, a traditional government organization, or in some cases they must be having a different kind of a ownership system, but the network would remain the same. How to merge together to reach out not only in terms of financial inclusion, but in totality in terms of insurance, in terms of money transactions, and also in terms of reachability of the physical things also. Say in terms of say some medical kit, even during this COVID period. Say especially we had to come forward in terms of transportation of very urgent materials, testing kits, other devices, medicines, and things like that. So I'm sure the participating audience of this forum and their counterparts in the postal system there, we can have other exchanges. We have a forum of ITEC also available who have been with us in this kind of administration for them and vice versa. So that is what the concluding thing I would like to say. The relevancy of this interaction today can kind of flourish into more information exchange on this part.
Thank you very much. I think we've now reached the end of the discussion, and I'll request Professor Poonam Singh to kindly extend a vote of thanks to our distinguished speakers and also to all the distinguished participants from 12 countries and also our domestic participants.
Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon. It's a great privilege for me to propose a vote of thanks today for this auspicious event. First of all, NCGG is very grateful and thankful to the esteemed lead speakers of today's webinar, Shri Vineet Pandey, Secretary, Department of Posts, Ministry of Communication, Government of India, and Srimati Usha Padhi, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India, for accepting our invitation to share your vast experience with the audience. I'm sure that all participants have benefited a lot. So thank you so much, sir, and thank you so much, ma'am. NCGG is very grateful to our Director General, Sri V. Srinivas, sir, who has given immense support for making this webinar a grand success. His vision and guidance enabled NCGG to reach greater heights and motivated the entire team of NCGG to perform optimally. Thank you so much, sir. We are very grateful to you. NCGG would like to appreciate the audience of the webinar comprising of international civil servants from 12 countries, previous speakers of Good Governance webinar series of NCGG, leading faculties of public administration from Central Universities of India, district collectors from aspirational districts, faculties of public policy of Indian Institute of Management, resource person of NCGG, senior officials from DARPG. We are really thankful and grateful to all for participating in this auspicious event. We would like to acknowledge Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for their great cooperation and support to make this webinar successful. Finally, I would like to thank the entire team of NCGG who are working behind the curtains. Thank you all for this for your gracious presence at this webinar, and have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. With this, we conclude the webinar. Thank you.